Welcome back, everyone. I'm Joe Jonovich, and today we're going to talk about bed bugs. This video is part one on bed bugs. We're going to talk about the basic bed bug biology and identification. And in the next video, bed bugs part two, we're going to talk about different control methods that you have as options to control bed bugs and also how to add value to your service. First, let's talk about some basic bed bug biology. For the different species you'll encounter, there's 3 different species you may encounter, and you might not even know it. They look very similar, especially the first 2, the common bed bug and the tropical bed bug. As you might have guessed it, the tropical bed bug likes more tropical climates, but with people spreading around and air conditioning and heated homes, you can find those about anywhere now, and they look very similar to the bed bugs. As far as those 2 are concerned, your control methods are going to be the same. So it's not going to be a huge issue for you where you've got to change what you do, turn everything upside down. But the third one, I definitely want to give them honorable mention. It's called a bat bug. Technically not a bed bug. It's a close cousin, the bat bug. It's its own species, and this is the bat bug in that lower left of your screen. If you look really close, you'll notice those hairs sticking out on the body are longer. There's just a little bit different shape to the pronotum and those longer hairs. The bed bug at the top has recently fed. That's why it's got that more rounder shape. So don't go by the shape of the abdomen, but definitely look for those longer hairs. That's what I find is the easiest for me to tell them apart. And bat bugs, you could say it'll ruin your day. If you have bat bugs, you sell it as a bed bug treatment because bat bugs, they're going to be living in different places and require different treatment. More on that in a minute. But to go over all these, they are all flightless blood feeders. So they're great hitchhikers. They're going to come in on a person that brings a package or maybe even something that just got shipped, or you go somewhere else and bring something in. So that is going to be the difficult part about controlling these. As we said before, the first 2 are the ones that are going to mainly feed on people. Bat bugs, of course, are feeding on bats. They can incidentally bite people, but they're not going to be using humans as their main hosts. That's the good news. Give you some of those points of the bat bug. Here's a larger picture. So with it really blown up on a good microscope, you can see those really long hairs sticking out, especially on the pronotum right behind the head. That's going to be your key for telling this apart. And as you may guess, if you've got bat bugs, you got to treat where the bats are. They're feeding on the bats, not so much the people. So these are typically attic infestations. And what happens is if somebody has bats living in their attic for a long time, maybe they don't treat it, they don't get around to it, don't have the money, or they think they're cute, then the bats come in, the bat bugs come in also, they start spreading. And just like you see bed bugs in somebody's bedroom with an infestation, bat bugs do the same thing in an attic. They get in every little crack and crevice that they hide for harborage, and then they come out and feed and go back and hide. And a way to simplify it, you need to do a bed bug treatment in the attic. You've got to treat all those cracks and crevices. And of course, probably most important, get rid of the bats. You get rid of the host, the bat bugs will go away. Now they will be crawling around looking for a host, so it can cause you more problems with them dropping in the living area. But ultimately, get rid of the bats, you get rid of the bat bugs. The classic scenario I see pest control technicians come across with bat bugs is a job got sold as bed bugs. Maybe you find one here, one there that are bat bugs that had dropped down through the ceiling, and you do your treatment, and a month or so later, you get another call. They found another bat bug. And then you do a treatment again. A month later, you get another call. They find another live bat bug. And typically what I find is it's usually the adults that they're finding because they're bigger, easier to see. Not that the nymphs won't drop through the ceiling, but they're catching what they think are bed bugs on a regular basis. And so the key is if you start suspecting something like that, ask the right questions. One of them I had in the past year, that's where even over the phone before I went out there, going through this whole scenario, kind of like what I just laid out. And then I just asked her, have you ever had bats in your attic? And it was just silence on the phone. So I knew that was a yes to an answer of, do you have bats in your attic when I get silence? And she finally said, yes, why? And I sent the service manager out to take a look, see what's in there. And sure enough, it was loaded with bat bugs. So just asking the right questions, even over the phone, even if it is an initial sale, look around, see if you see any signs of bats or stuff like that. You might be dealing with bat bugs, but not very common. I come across this about once a year, but I did want to just take a pause here, give it some honorable mention, because this is something that can ruin your day. So back to bed bugs. How did I get bed bugs? Common question you'll get from the customers. As I mentioned before, they're great hitchhikers. They can come in on items that get shipped in. They can come in on you. Listing these areas here: hotels, movie theaters, casinos, stores, public transportation, schools, your work, relatives' homes, people that come in to visit for the holidays. They got bed bugs, they can bring them to you when they come and stay. So anywhere people are sitting lethargic for a long time, public transportation, that's a big one. You might even be just, riding a bus, so it might not be that, Hilton hotel you stayed in on vacation, but while you're on vacation, you're doing some sightseeing, or the airport shuttles. So you park in the economy lot, you take the shuttle up to the terminal. Those get infested on a regular basis. People are bringing their luggage in there. People are sitting down on the seats for a while, and they start living in the seats. And this picture on the left, this is from when that, if you want to say, media publicized Paris infestation. Everybody freaked out. And I will say it's not just Paris. It's a lot of areas have bed bugs. But it's kind of a grainy photo that they put in the article. But that's a bed bug walking on a seat on public transportation. And that's how they spread. So maybe they did get into the Paris hotels to begin with. But everybody who stays in the hotel ends up going on the bus and the trains around Europe. The bed bugs get on the buses and trains. Now they spread to the other people's hotels they're staying in and their personal homes, and everything just starts spreading. And that's what bed bugs do. They're great hitchhikers. For you, as an employee, as a technician, or even somebody's going on vacation yourself, you just got to be aware of what bed bugs look like. Obviously, you guys are in pest control, so I trust you know how to treat bed bugs. Even if not, after you watch these videos, it'll help you out. But it's not end of the world. The key with bed bugs is it's going to be a fact of life. It's just recognizing them early and treating them thoroughly, and you can get them under control and keep them away. It's the people that don't realize they have bed bugs or refuse to treat that it just gets out of control. But they're great at what they do, really good hitchhikers. And I do encourage you to think outside the box of where do bed bugs come from. I listed a lot of the common situations I've come across here. A couple of them came up as the casinos. You wouldn't think about sitting in a casino chair could be a problem, but it's people sitting in low lit rooms for hours on end. It's kind of like a bed. So those situations like that could help you kind of narrow it down. One of the clients I dealt with, she was a dealer at a poker room, and that's where she had known they had bed bugs. And first thing she'd do when she'd come home, she'd throw her dealer belt, on her bed and take a shower, change clothes. But throwing that belt on the bed, it sounds like some bed bugs, were in that belt at one day and got into bed. So just think outside the box, try and figure where these come from. So bed bugs come in, what happens next? They're going to reproduce if they have access to a host. Typically, that's going to be the person, whether it's the customer, whether that's you. If they can get to a host and they can feed, they only have to feed a couple minutes at a time. So they've adapted really well for, even like we mentioned, the public transportation and the buses, that somebody's on there for 20 minutes and they can get a meal, go back in their hiding spot, and they're good to go for a few days. So, of course, they do better if it's a bed where you're asleep for hours on end. It's easier for them to get a meal whenever they want to, but they're very well adapted. So they're going to live, they're going to reproduce, and they're going to be ready to start that whole cycle over. When they're inside your home, where can they live? Mattresses, box springs, bed frames, of course. The bed, that's what we think of when we think bed bugs. They're going to be on the bed. And you see all the pictures of bed bugs crawling over a mattress when somebody lifts off the sheets. So that is going to be their primary thing. They want to be close to their food source, which is the customer, or you. So that is where you're going to find 70 to 90% of bed bugs are going to be in that 5 to 10 feet of the bed. But they will be behind baseboards, the pictures on the wall. I've seen them in smoke detectors, popcorn ceiling, just those little kind of crevices and cracks and heavy texture. They'll be hiding up in there. Sofas and chairs are a big one. I think we really miss those a lot as bed bug inspectors. We go straight to the bedroom, and a lot of people sit for hours watching TV on a sofa. And if you got a lazy boy sectional, it's leather, you can't get into it, you can't treat it well. There's all these moving pieces, and they get down in those cracks and crevices, and they can come out and feed when they want, go back in. If you have a situation like that, and typically if you spray a little bit around the baseboards, you're not going to stop the problem. And guess what? They're going to spread the bed bugs back from the sofa to the bedroom and other parts of the house. So it all starts over again. So you got to be aware of all these places they can hide. And this could be any room in the house. They've been found in kitchens, they've been found in bathrooms. They will move and they'll spread. We'll talk about distribution a little bit later. But they're going to keep spreading. That's what they do. One analogy I heard somebody say years ago that is kind of spot on. They're like German roaches that suck your blood. And in a way, as far as them wanting to spread and be good hitchhikers, that is, right on for these guys. They do live in cracks and crevices, dark places. They come out when you're sleeping and the lights are off, and they're the great hitchhikers. So you can think about them as German roaches that suck your blood. So just instead of the kitchen, they're more in the bedrooms or the sitting areas. The next thing is the cycle starts all over again. They spread, they thoroughly infest a home. And if that client is working somewhere in an office building, they're going to take them on their purse or on their clothing, and they're going to go sit down and they spread to work. And then once they're at work, maybe somebody else moves some chairs around, etc., or uses that same conference room, and they get bed bugs, and the whole cycle starts over again. Example of that, this is a text I received in the upper left. I blacked out their name, but this was a client who had bed bugs in assisted living, and they did get him under control. But guess what? A couple months went by, and they said, hey, I've got this bug here. Is this a bed bug? And this is the picture they texted, so it's not the clearest in the world. But you can kind of see on that cloth there, it's got that apple seed kind of shape, that mahogany brown. That's an adult bed bug they found in their home. So most likely, this came from when they were working with their parents at the assisted living. They were going back and forth, and they caught some hitchhikers. Maybe they got it somewhere completely independent, but once again, great hitchhikers. Let's talk about the bed bug life cycle. Bed bugs can go from egg to adult in about 5-6 weeks. And that definition of adult is basically, a living organism that can lay eggs again. So that's that complete life cycle. That is a pretty quick cycle. Once again, that's a comparison to your German roaches. It's actually a little quicker than German roaches. And then the adults from there can live for about 6 to 12 months, depending on conditions. People have kept them alive in a laboratory longer, but real life is going to be kind of harsher conditions. Do they have a food source? Do they not? Are you coming in spraying insecticides or not? So it's going to be a little bit tougher in real life for them, but figure 6 to 12 months for an adult. And what that'll translate to is each female can lay 100 to 500 eggs. And once again, a wide range, but that's a big number. And then if you're thinking about it in a month or two, those eggs, half of them are females, and they're laying 100 to 500 eggs. You could see how quickly this gets out of control. So it could be tens of thousands in only a couple months.